there, my name's Julia McNeil and I'm from JMC Designs. I'm delighted to be doing a tutorial with you here today, and we're going under the sea. So we are doing that using these fabulous under the sea theme stamps, and we're going to create that magical underwater feel by using some stencils, our distress inks and just a tiny bit of water. Okay, so I am going to create a project using these stamps here from JMC Designs. So we've got all the octopus and ocean dreams that are part of a set. Now I have already stamped out and coloured my images. I have stamped them out using a Memento ink because I've coloured them with my alcohol markers. So if you want more information on what ink you should use with what medium to use, check out the Hochanda YouTube channel, because you will have a lovely demonstration there from the lovely Paula, who goes into that in great detail. So this is how I work. I work by sitting there and I stamp out loads of images, then I colour them all in, and then I have a box ready to go. So for example, I've got this little box here. This is a little sneak peek of what's coming for our anniversary show in February. So excited about that, and I'm hoping you'll love it. But anyway, back to today. What we're going to do is create a background using our distress inks and water, and to create a really dramatic background for these gorgeous little guys to sit on. Okay, so at this point I am using distress ink, mustard seed and cracked pistachio, and I am using a blending mat by Be Crafty. So all I've done is I have taken a piece of card that I've torn down the edge, and I've got a piece of the Dolly Dimples mixed media card. Oops. And I am just going to create a quick blended background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the mustard seed, and I'm just going to rub against that piece of paper, and then I would just keep bringing that down like so. And what we're going to create is sort of like a wave effect. So I would do that all the way down the card, and I would use a little bit of mustard seed, and then I would go in certain areas with the cracked pistachio. To be honest, if you don't have these colours, they're available on the Hochanda website. You can just use any green and yellow inks that you have. I believe distress inks are available on the Hochanda website, but you need to, for this technique to work, you will need to be using a water-based ink. Okay, so we would do that all the way down the page until we end up with something like this. So I have got it so that I've got a little bit of green in the top corner, and I've got a little bit of green on the base. Now I'm going to build up the interest using some stencils by JMC Designs. So I have got the circle stencil and the large cog, which might not be the first thing you think of when you think of under the sea. But if we think about under the sea, we have ships, shipwrecks and things like this, so I think it works quite well. So I've taken a bit of the cracked pistachio, and I have just blended that down like so. So now we're creating a few little bubbles. Next thing I'm going to do is take the cog stencil, and I'm just using corners of it, and I'm going to just build up, put a corner piece there. Okay, so it's very subtle. It's not sort of like huge in your face steampunk, but it does add a little bit of interest. And I think when creating a one layer background like this, it's really good to sort of build up the layers and the interest, so there's lots of things to look at. And I think I might just pop a little one down here. So for the next part of this is why we need a water-based ink. So I'm just going to grab some water, and I'm just going to flick. I also like to turn my work, because I find that I do that, my flicks aren't so one directional, and I get a more even result. Now this is a water-based product, so the water will react, but you just do need to allow it time to do its thing. So quite often with processes, if they're not turning out the same as how we see it demonstrated, it's maybe that we're just in a little bit too much of a hurry. So we do just need to leave it a few seconds just to allow that water to push the pigment away. And then if we just lift that, we've got this gorgeous splatter effect. Okay, and then we get it to this sort of stage here. So this is what one has been drying for a little while, but I want to now create a little bit more interest. So I'm going to go in with my bubble stencil again, and it's kind of like, well, why has she done splatters and then she's going to cover them up? What I tend to find is it means we're going to have splatters that have got a slight colour tinge to them, and then when we do it again later on we'll have ones that are really white, and again it all just adds to that level of interest. So I've just popped another layer of bubbles then, and what I am going to do now is, again, I'm going to do this trick with the water. So, but this time I'm going to draw a big long diagonal stripe down the centre, and then I'm going to follow another one, and this is almost like, you know, when you see these under the sea pictures and there's rays of light coming down. So again, I need to allow it time for the water to do its thing. So I'm just wanting to make sure I move all that pigment underneath, that I agitate it and get it moving, and then also just leave it a little moment for the water to do its thing and to sort of lift it from the paper. So this is why you need a water-based product for this technique, because if you're using like a dye-based ink, you're not going to get the same results because they just work differently. Okay, so we're just going to leave that a second, and then I'm just going to grab my painty cloth and just lift that up, and now we've got these shards of light coming down. Now I want to build up the corner of this, so again I'm going to come back in with my stencil, and I'm just going to pop a few more circles just at the bottom because I'm wanting to create more depth and more colour. So if you think about the bottom of the ocean, it's very, very dark, but we've also got the sun up here which is causing this shaft of light. So what I'm going to do is I'm really going to build up the depth of colour round here. So I'm now going to pick darker distress inks. So I'm going to switch these out, and I'm going to go for Faded Jeans and Mermaid Lagoon for this next stage, and then we will come in with a little bit of Black Soot at the end. So I'm going to get my Mermaid Lagoon, and I'm just going to bring it around the corner. Let me see if I can shift that up so you can see it a bit better. So we're going to do this like so. Okay, this paper is getting a little bit wet because I've obviously just done those shafts of light, so it might be worth sort of waiting a little second. So we've got that, then I'm going to come in with a darker colour now. So now I've got my Faded Jeans. I'm not switching out my blending tool because these are all blues, so I'm using a different one to I was with the pale yellow. So we're just going to gradually build up that colour like so, and then I would go in and I would get the black, and just really right in the depths there we will have a little bit of the black going on like so. Then I would build all of that up, and once I have built it all up I would go in and flick water again and leave it to do its thing. Maybe not quite in that corner, probably more here, but it's just for the sake of demonstration purposes. I would sort of lift that again. So again we've got layer upon layer upon layer, and it's adding lots of interest. And then we end up with something like this. I'm just going to move my blending mat out the way now. So now we're at this stage, we can very quickly put something together. So I'm just going to clear up my inks and And so we have a one layer piece here with loads of interest. Now the reason I've not brought that dark colour into this corner is because we would have the sun here, and so it's going to, the sun would be coming through here, but it's not going to be hitting the depths of the ocean, so that's why I've kind of got the dark and coming up there, but we've left that nice and bright. So now this is where it all becomes really fun. I would just grab my little pieces that I've pre-cut and coloured, and this is why I like doing this. It just means that everything's sort of there and I can sort of have a little play with how I might want it to look. So I'm going to sort of push the different elements in. I have them overlapping for interest. I could even have like a little fish coming in to say hello. Yeah, so this is, as I said, kind of what I do. I do think sort of overlaying your images rather than sort of laying them out like that. It looks more cohesive if they're all sort of overlapping, although having said that, I now really fancy having a couple of little starfish dangles just there. So I am then going to, what I would sort of do is lift my seahorse like so. The other thing I would just do with my seahorse there is, because I have fussy cut it with a bit of a white edge, I would just possibly bring my blends in again and bring in that mustard seed. Sorry for the light shining there. And I would just sort of pop that around the edges of it so that it blends into the background and you don't see that white. But then I would just sort of grab my glue, gradually stick these pieces down. So I'll just get that and get that stuck down. Okay, so that's everything stuck down. There's just a few things I like to do to finish off a card. If you take a pen, a black pen with a chisel nib, I just like to run, something stuck there. I just like to run the edge of it around the card, and I just find that this helps to frame it. What I tend to do is I have the card sort of tilted away from me and the chisel nib tilted away from me. I tend to sort of start somewhere and work towards me, then sort of overlap and go away. And I just gradually do that around the card. And this is a bit like if you have a photograph like on your phone and it looks amazing, but then you put it in a frame and it looks even better. And then if you sort of send it to a professional and they have lots of mounts, it looks even better. And it's because we are drawing the eye in, so it's focusing on our work, which is why I always like to edge it. And also then sort of take a fine line pen. There's loads of different brands available on the Hochanda website. I'm going to turn these into the dangles, so I'm just going to squiggly line. And sometimes it's these little doodles that we're maybe a bit afraid of, but make it unique. And that's, if we are creating things, we want it to be unique and we want it to be ours. And it's these little things that can make a difference. Now I mentioned about if we take it to a professional framer, we end up with, you know, various mounts. And this is where sort of maybe adding in a quick doodly border. We're just doubling that frame now, and again it's drawing the eye in, which is giving far more focus to the project. So we'll just go around and finish that. Okay, so there we have a completed piece, which would then maybe go perfectly. I've done this to just slightly less than A6, so it would go on an A6 card, or it could go on your journal, whatever your form of crafting is. Can very easily transform it into there. And this is the project all finished. How gorgeous does it look? And if you want to make this, you can find everything that you need on the Hochanda website.